My thoughts are that the regime is doomed. It's not going to last, but it's really a question of, is it going to fall over in the next few days, or will it carry on struggling along? Because it clearly doesn't have the support of the people.
Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper was on her feet. She had a message for Iran. Have a listen.
The United Kingdom condemns in the strongest of terms the horrendous and brutal killing of Iranian protesters, and we demand that the Iranian authorities respect the fundamental rights and freedoms of their citizens.
That's Yvette Cooper speaking earlier. The Foreign Secretary has called in the Iranian ambassador to the Foreign Office to express those concerns face to face, and also we've been hearing about more sanctions in the pipeline for Iran. But of course, everything is now subject to the way this story develops, as it is developing now. Welcome to the programme, Emily Thornberry, who chairs the Foreign Affairs Committee at Westminster. Emily, hello.
Good afternoon.
So, I mean, you, I guess, Emily, like all of us, are just processing, just watching and analysing the tweet that we had from the President a short while ago, the events as they unfold. What are your thoughts now?
My thoughts are that the regime is doomed. It's not going to last, but it's really a question of, is it going to fall over in the next few days, or will it carry on struggling along? Because it clearly doesn't have the support of the people. It has the support of some, but there is a very large number of people who do not and have not supported the regime for a very long time. And there's a new generation of youngsters who've never known anything else but this regime, and who don't like it, and who want to be able to live in a new way. And who the women won't wear their heads covered, who do meet up with boys in the street, who do live another way, who see on social media another way of life, and who want to live that way. And actually, they have that in common with the younger generation in Saudi Arabia too, which I've seen are also, obviously I'm talking about middle classes, I appreciate, and not necessarily people out in the countryside, but these revolutions quite often happen within the cities. Yeah. But we now see just how brave these youngsters have to be in order to be out on the streets, because it would certainly seem as though hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them have been shot. Yeah, and we have just seen the President of the United States urging Iranians. Streets, we're told at the moment, many streets in Iran are empty for fear of the consequences of running into security forces who've been killing demonstrators in large numbers. Now the President is saying, take to the streets, take over institutions, and we hear this, we read this just as the Foreign Secretary is condemning the killing, the murder of those demonstrators. So, Emily, as the chair of a committee who has the job of being the watchdog of British foreign policy, what should the British government be saying to President Trump now? So he also said in his tweet, help is coming. Yes. And there's really, we are all trying to second guess what on earth that means. Yeah. And indeed, that's the question I asked of the Foreign Secretary, was presumably the Foreign Office are now sitting back trying to second guess what Donald Trump is going to do. And if he does do what he says he was going to do, which was to take action by way of military action, some form of bombing raid in Iran, will we support that, or will we take the same position as we did in the summer, where we didn't support it, but we did protect America, or help protect America and Israel when the Iranians retaliated against the UK? And that's the question I asked. I didn't get an answer, but that's the question I asked. And presumably the Foreign Secretary is not really going to want to start talking publicly about contingency plans that they're making in the Foreign Office, because they just don't know what Donald Trump is going to do next. And quite frankly, that's no great failing. Nobody knows what Donald Trump is going to do next. I fear not even Donald Trump at the moment. No, well, that may very well be true, but it is within the realm of the behaviour of a government to have a policy on the contingencies we're talking about at the moment. Does the British government support the idea of regime change? Does the British government support the use of military force, bombs and missiles to achieve that end? Now, you're telling us now you're not able to divine the British government position on that. Now, that being so, what is your position on that? Because you're freer than most ministers to commentate on these things. What should the British position be? My position has always been the same. And has been confirmed by too many attempts to try to change regimes from 50,000 feet. You can't bomb a regime out of existence and bring in a new one. Just like you can't cut the head of a snake and somehow everything's going to be all right. All you get is a dead snake. If there's going to be a change in Iran, it has to come from the Iranian people. It cannot be imposed from outside, and it would be wrong to do so. And if we hadn't learnt that lesson in Iraq, we certainly have had plenty of time since then to have learnt it. Libya is the one, I think, in particular that I always remember. Libya is a totally dysfunctional, miserable country. And there was so much promise made, so many promises made about what was going to happen in Libya, and it's all failed. And I'm not suggesting for a moment that we should support the Iranian regime. And indeed, it's quite clear that the British don't and the British government doesn't. And the government introduced more sanctions against the Iranians today and made it clear that we didn't support what they were doing. But to try to come in from outside and say, oh, you'll do, you can be the leader, you take over this country, doesn't work. It doesn't work. We know it doesn't work. Experience shows us it doesn't work.
Okay, that is a frank answer. Before you leave us, and while we wait to see this story develop in real time, I know your committee and you have been looking at the issue of disinformation, the spreading of fake information by malign actors, by adversary states. What are you hoping to achieve? What point are you seeking to ram home with your inquiry?
So it's really... people are quite rightly worried about what's happening on X in terms of those fake images and the undressing of women and the abuse of kids. But there is also an abuse of our democracy that is also happening on social media, whereby people are spreading lies. There is deliberate disinformation happening, and democracies are trying to be undermined by other countries. There's a good example, frankly, coming from Iran, where they've closed the internet now, as they did during the summer. And on both occasions, 1,300 X accounts closed down, went silent. And they were all, on the face of it, Scottish nationalist supporters. Now, I don't believe there are 1,300 Scottish nationalist supporters in Iran. There's a bot farm that is just trying to sow discontent and argument and so on. And it's just a very good example of the sort of thing that's happening. And that's happening on X. The evidence is perfectly clear. Is X even going to bat an eyelid about it? Would X do anything about it? That's the question. And it isn't just X. It's all of the social media sites are being abused. And we went to Romania, where we saw that the presidential election had to be rerun because of an abuse of the algorithms on TikTok, where somebody with, frankly, no support suddenly went right to the top of the algorithm. You couldn't get away from him. His face was on TikTok all the time being promoted. And it looked like he might even win the election. And he was backed by Russia.
Emily Thornberry, Chair of the Foreign Affairs Committee at Westminster. Good to talk to you, Emily. Thank you.